At this time, I'll call to order the City of Joliet pre-council meeting for June 19th, 2023. Mayor Terry Darcy presiding.
We'll begin with roll call. Mayor Darcy.
Here.
Councilman Cardenas.
Here.
Councilman Clement.
Here.
Councilman Guerrero did notify me he would be unable to attend this evening. Councilman Hug.
Here.
Councilwoman Ibarra.
Here.
Councilman Mudrin.
Here.
Councilwoman Coleman.
Here.
Councilwoman Reardon.
Here.
First on the agenda this evening is citizens to be heard on agenda items. Is there anyone present that would like to speak on an agenda item this evening? Seeing none, we'll ask the interim city manager to review tomorrow's agenda items.
Great, good evening, thank you. First, just let me say, again, thank you for the opportunity to be able to serve you in this role. I'm really looking forward to it. Hopefully you'll give me a little grace here for my first meeting on this side of you over here, so I appreciate that, because we do have a lengthy agenda, so we'll try to get to it rather quickly. I guess a point of information to start, though, as we go through our agenda tonight, I'm going to present it in a bit of a different format than you've seen in the past. And what I wanted to be able to do with that tonight is help you really use this time in a workshop type environment, which is what our pre-council meeting should be. This is the opportunity for you to ask questions of staff, to have discussions amongst yourself, maybe argue about something if we need to, whatever the case is, but to really try to do the work on our agenda items tonight so that when we're here in our voting meeting tomorrow, we can be more efficient with that. So bear with me, we'll learn how to do it best together as we go through our meetings, but it probably will look and feel a little bit different tonight as we go through it. So some of the items I'll just be summarizing as opposed to just reading them, directly off the agenda. I know you're all very capable readers and put probably hours over the weekend into reading this 500-page packet. So with that, we have 3 proclamations that the mayor will have, including a reappointment to the Joliet Police Pension Board for 2 of the members that we appoint. The other 3 are elected by the pension members. Obviously, we'll go through our council committee reports, some of those meetings happening today and some still happening tomorrow before our council meeting. On the consent agenda, we're going to have a number of items related to finance matters, public works, public utility matters, and some other committees as well. You'll have your, obviously, minute approvals included in there from June 5th and 6th council meetings and the June 9th special council meeting. Relative to finance, of course, you'll have your invoices report for June 20th, as well as your May 2023 payrolls. Any questions on any of those items before I move on? Thanks. When we look at what's included in the consent agenda for contract awards and change orders, all of these have been or will have been before the Public Service Committee before they get to you tomorrow night. There's in the range of about 30 or so items here for either contract awards or change orders.
Mayor, quick question. Rod, are you going to maintain what the previous city manager did by delaying things that are recommended or for approval or not, and delaying them 2 weeks? Are you going to continue that, or are you going to go back to the old format where it goes out at the next council meeting?
Good question, Councilman. We actually discussed that with the staff today in a department head meeting. And for now, we're going to continue to do it the same way, just to be able to kind of monitor how the flow of meetings happens, the scheduling works, and what the oddities or issues are that arise from that, so that I have a clear understanding of how the whole system's processing, and then we'll reevaluate it.
Okay.
So is there any question on any of the contract awards or change orders? Again, I've asked, everyone that has an agenda item here from staff, department heads to be here today, so they're available at your disposal if you have questions. They're the people that know all the details and have the knowledge and expertise in any area that's on this agenda. So again, don't hesitate to ask. Now's the time if you have questions on anything. Wrapping up the consent agenda is authorization related to the Joliet Area Historical Museum request that's been through Prison Committee and will be through Finance Committee. All right.
One request, Ron.
Sure.
You know, so we can get ahead of it, or actually to you, Krista, I would like item 30923 pulled out for a separate vote tomorrow. Thank you.
Any questions or issues you have that you'd like to discuss now? Or
No,
ask?
no, I've got all the information, but thank you for asking, but no, I've got all the information. I just feel it should stand on its own.
Very good, thanks, Councilman. All right, moving on to agenda items. Because this exceeds the consent agenda limit of $2 million that you had previously set, it stands as a standalone agenda item regarding the purchase and upfitting of 35 Dodge Squad vehicles. We also have a related budget amendment, which we'll cross later off in the agenda that goes with this. So any questions?
No, I'm just going to add that Mr. Price is going to be here tomorrow to explain. There was a very long meeting at Public Safety with great detail about these purchases, so he will be at the meeting to explain to the city.
Great, thanks, Councilwoman. After that, we'll go on to our license and permit applications. There will be 3 liquor licenses presented to you. We'll have Deputy Liquor Commissioner Kevin Kelly here tomorrow night to do that. Again, I'll stop and ask.
He's here.
He's here.
Any questions?
Yeah, just briefly, can we, discuss, or not discuss, but define the CG, just so people know, because we have a BG, which has been controversial. So I just want for those watching to know what the CG is.
CG is
Could you use the mic, Kevin?
Yeah.
Thanks.
so CG is a gas station off-premise liquor license only, so it's not for on-premise consumption.
It's not tied in with the BG at
No,
all.
the BG is one that would be
Consumption.
Core license, so consumption technically on-premise, usually for the permit, so they can get a gambling permit.
So this is just for packages.
It's just for package.
Thank you. Thank you.
And Kevin, I misspoke. You're to review these tonight,
Okay.
and I didn't. I'm new to the process.
Okay, so first off is item 314-23, which is an application for the issuance of a Class C liquor license at 1200 South Richard Street, Sugar Creek Liquors. A Class C license authorizes the sale of packaged goods for consumption off of the premises. There is currently a liquor license at this location. The new owner, who has 7 years of experience in selling liquor, also has an existing business in Joliet already called Mimi's, and he is seeking a liquor license to resume a business in a similar fashion. The Liquor Commissioner is recommending approval of this license. Second is item 315-23. This is an application for the issuance of a Class B liquor license at 700 Ruby Street. A Class B license authorizes the service of alcoholic beverages for consumption on the premises. The location had a liquor license under previous ownership a few months ago. The applicants are new owners who are seeking the issuance of a license to sell alcoholic beverages at their restaurant. The Liquor Commissioner is recommending approval of this license as well. And lastly, item 316-23 is an application for the issuance of a Class CG liquor license at 1601 East Cass Street, 7-Eleven. A Class CG license authorizes sale of packaged goods by a gas station for consumption off of the premises. This location had a liquor license under previous ownership, but he surrendered his liquor license because of an extremely high volume of crime at the store. In the last 2.5 years, there have been 185 calls for police service at this location. There is also an existing full-service liquor store right next to this location. The new owners are seeking a new license to once again sell alcohol at this location. The Liquor Commissioner is recommending denial of this license. Is there any questions?
Mr. Mayor. Chief, can we get calls for service for that Mimi Liquors? It's on Cash Street. I don't have the address, but we can, it's the old sliding door over there.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin. All right, moving on, the agenda, next section will be under public hearings. There's 3 posted or noticed public hearings. One of them we're going to ask to be tabled. The other two memos, number 318 and 319, relate to the Rowell Avenue development. We'll also have that under resolutions and ordinances. The item asked to be tabled is Council Memo 320-23. This has been tabled numerous times in the past. The owner is still working with Utilities and Public Works to try to solve their site development issues and bring this forward. So you may see that. Again, we'll ask you to table it to August 15th. Hopefully we'll have a solution by then. Any questions on the public hearings? We do have Nate Washburn here, who is representative of the petitioners on items 318 and 319.
I have a question.
Very good.
Is Nate here? I got an email today saying that you were displacing a senior in a low-income residential neighborhood, someone who's been there for 25 years. And that address was, I have the address, but I'm just wondering is somebody being displaced over this, especially a senior?
Well, if you're asking, is somebody renting this property going to have to leave that property, then the answer is yes. However, that individual has been in constant communication with my client since this process more or less began. They spoke very recently. She wanted to make sure she had sufficient time to find suitable other living arrangements. My client had indicated to her that were this to be approved, it's going to be anywhere from 3 to 6 months before he breaks ground. So she would have at least that much time, and he's going to be working with her. She does have a written lease agreement, so we would have to comply with any laws. If she doesn't want to voluntarily leave, obviously there are legal protections in place for her. So we wouldn't be doing anything illegal, and she's been informed of the process. So to say that we're displacing her, I think would be a bit of an overstatement, given that she's been consulted and to a lesser extent involved in these discussions.
I was just paraphrasing what she said. Thank you.
Any
Thank
other
you.
questions?
Councilwoman Ibarra, too, just so we become aware of that comment having come in. So we did have Jim Torrey, Planning Director, looked into it, and I can confirm that what Nate's indicated is accurate. They own the property. They're on a month-to-month lease with that tenant, and once their project's approved, they'll go through the appropriate ways of treating her. But yes, she will have to find other alternative housing at some point, so.
Okay.
The
thank
house
you.
will be demoed as a part of the overall process, so she would not be able to stay there because the house won't exist.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions related to our public hearing items? I sound like a broken record, because just remember, now is the time to ask. This is different, so please do, if you have them. All right, moving on to ordinances and resolutions. We have a number of things coming to you from either the zoning board or the plan commission. Council Memo 322 is a special use permit regarding a logistics terminal along Mound Road. This is directly across the street from the U.S. Howland existing terminal that is there now. This went through the zoning board in May. There was no objectors, and they sent it forward to you with unanimous recommendation for approval. Are there any questions on that item? Again, planning staff's here if you have them, so. The next item, Council Member 323. This relates to the annexation that you approved back at your first meeting in April. This is 55 acres that you annexed to provide contiguity to property owned by North Point or considered part of the Eastgate Logistics Park. When that property was annexed, it was not zoned, so it just came through you for annexation only. City's ordinance doesn't provide for a default zoning, so if that condition ever occurs, the ordinance directs the city's planning and zoning director to assign a zoning. So we are actually the petitioner in this case as a city of Joliet. We do not have an agricultural district, which is what the previous zoning was when it was unincorporated. The closest thing we have is R1, and that's what's been recommended to you. Again, this went through Plan Commission in May, and they sent the recommendation to you to make it R1. I'll pause. Any questions, comments? I know I talked to a couple of you individually on clarifying this earlier today, so everyone clear and good with moving forward? Council Memo 324 relates to a series of ordinances with Rowell Storage. The public hearing items you will be having also deal with this, so you'll be approving plats, a reclassification for a portion of the property, a special use permit to allow a self-storage facility, as well as a couple of vacant right-of-way vacation plats. Again, this went through both ZBA and Plan Commission for various items related to this project. There was no objectors, and it's being sent to you with a unanimous recommendation for approval. Questions on that item? All right, moving on then, Council Memo 325 relates to a special use permit for an automotive service and repair business at 521 Oak Leaf Court. I believe you've dealt with a number of items that came to you like this one is, where it was found through the business licensing process to not be in compliance with zoning. Some of them, I think Councilwoman Quillman asked about one either last meeting or the meeting before, that was out there for years. This one's only not even a year old. I think the business opened in October of 22nd, so kudos to our team and process for finding these. We're seeing it work much more efficiently. So any questions on that item? Again, it comes to you with recommendation approval and no objections. 326 relates to the public hearing. We said we were going to request to be tabled August 15th. All of these ordinances also will be requested to be tabled till your August 15th meeting. Again, all these items are not ready to be acted on, as the property owner is still trying to work through some of their site development issues. Memo 327. This is an ordinance that authorizes the city to file a condemnation proceeding in a couple of parcels related to the Olympic Boulevard project and extension. Any questions on that item? All right, returning to the purchase agenda item we talked about earlier regarding 35 new Dodge Squad units, as well as the cost for upfitting, because that was not included in the budget in the form it now exists. We had a budget amendment ordinance presented under Council Memo 328. Questions on that?
We did review it in committee today, just so everybody up here knows. That wasn't anything, well, Councilman Mudrin was there. Actually, an estimation of cost of upfit was included in the original budget. But now that we've actually are gonna receive delivery of these vehicles with the whole supply chain issue and all that, the actual price is $200,000, at the most, $200,000 more. So really, we're adding to an existing budget item.
Correct. Thank you for the clarification, Councilman.
Sure.
And it was, a lot of these decisions have to be handled expeditiously now because, as Councilman mentioned, the supply chain issues, when orders are available, our staff's having to take them, so. Moving on then to resolutions, Council Memo 330. This is an interagency agreement between the City of Joliet and the Joliet Job Corps. This is really just a renewal of procedures that are in place for services that we provide for public safety and the Joliet Job Corps Center site. Any questions on that? Police Chief is here if you have them. Thank you. All right, moving on. Council Memo 331. There's a resolution accepting a $3 million grant from the state of Illinois. This is the grant we were awarded last year regarding the City Square project. Within the budget, you had already authorized and included the matching $3 million that goes with this grant. This is just the formal acceptance action that we need to take.
Question. We don't have an estimate other than very preliminarily, but at the last meeting, it was, upon questioning, it was clarified that there's basically currently $5 million minimum budget shortfall that will have to be covered. What would happen if it's more than $5 million and it's not an amount that the city would want to pay? what happens? Do you simply give the grant back if it doesn't go through?
I think we have a number of options at that point, right? So we have to complete the preliminary design process so we can have a firm estimate plus contingencies. Whatever the amount of that is over the 6 million that is currently known from both the state grant as well as our matching component will have to be included in your 2024 budget process. So we'll deal with that gap during the budget process.
And if it doesn't, if it fails to be approved?
Then either the design's gonna have to be scaled back to match what's available in the budget.
So accepting the grant would lock us in, we have to do it one way or the other.
I'm not certain if that's the case. I'd have to look into
If you can find
the
that by
actual what
tomorrow.
grant document requirements are.
Thank you.
Sabrina, do you know the answer to that? Okay. We'll find that out before tomorrow. Any other questions on that item? All right, under Council Memo 332, this is an intergovernmental agreement with Plainfield Community Consolidated School District 202. This relates to our school resource officer program that we do in collaboration with the school district. The only change in this is a policy statement of what's statutorily required related to the use of police body cameras, which previously weren't part of this agreement. And the police chief's here if you have any questions about that. Good. All right, moving on, Council Memo 333, this is just MFT fund authorization for the Wallace Street roadway project. Council Memo 334, similarly, just appropriating MFT funding for contract A of our collective roadway resurfacing project. Any questions on those? 335 is a resolution authorizing the execution of a real estate purchase contract at 4 South Cagwin. This is one of our city-owned properties. As I think you've been told numerous times, we have kind of a surplus of properties that we've collected in certain ways over the years. And Economic Development Department has been working with Habitat for Humanity. They will be the purchaser of this lot. We expect that they will be the purchaser of numerous lots more in the future, and that we'll have a great partnership there. And they'll be building a house on one of those lots, on this lot, once they take ownership of it. And Nicole Murray from Habitat is here, the executive director. If you have any questions about their plans or programs, she's available to answer them. All right, Council Memo 336. This is a resolution regarding the extension of our lease with the 13th Floor Entertainment Group, who operates the haunted house in the former women's prison. I think as you're all aware, with the structure of our lease with the state having to be extended, this lease also had to be temporarily extended, and we're still working on a long-term lease proposal with the state. So this just takes the haunted house to 12/31 of 2023.
Quick question, Mayor. Where are we at, Ron? Do you know, with the ongoing negotiation for how that extension is gonna look?
Yeah, I'd ask Sabrina to give an update.
I can provide that to you tomorrow, the update.
Thank you.
The Assistant Corporation Counsel, Chris Regis, has been leading those negotiations, so we'll get an update from him exactly where he's at in the process.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions on that item? Then we have Council Memo 337. This is the execution of a grant agreement with the Illinois Secretary of State Office for the Tri-County Auto Theft Task Force. This will be through Public Safety Committee, and we'll come to you with their recommendation.
Meeting tomorrow on that one.
Yep. Any questions on that?
Next is public comments. Is there anyone that would like to speak under public comments this evening?
I'm sorry, Krista, can we stop on the city manager's report first? I should have continued that next, right? Because I did have a couple of items.
Sure.
All right, so you were emailed today from Human Resources to proposals related to the contract potentials for a search firm for the city manager permanent position search. I think all of you are aware that we're scheduling a special meeting for Thursday to deal with an intergovernmental agreement related to police services at the Taste this coming weekend. If you're ready, you're able to also consider that contract for hiring of the search firm for the city manager position on that date. And you would need to discuss the matter tonight of those two proposals and have not a vote, but at least just a consensus on which one of those you'd like to put forward. And if you have that consensus, that could be on the agenda for the special meeting Thursday as well. So Mayor, I guess I'd turn it to the council dais then. Sabrina, did I cover that correctly? Thanks.
We'll do an action on that tomorrow, is that correct?
Yeah, you need to discuss it today and you need to, and discuss it for tomorrow and choose which of those proposals you'd like to actually have. I'm sorry, we need to do it tonight for notice requirement timing. Your meeting tomorrow will be after the notice requirement for the special meeting, so need just a consensus tonight. If you're at that point, and that's up to you, but if you're at that point, then amongst members present, you have a consensus as to which of those two proposals you prefer, then that can have it placed on the agenda tomorrow. Notice of the agenda for tomorrow.
For the Thursday meeting.
For the Thursday meeting.
Is everybody able to make that Thursday meeting? 4:30 was at the time we're talking?
Correct.
Anybody can't make it? We can make it? We can't make it?
No, I can make it.
All right.
I was gonna ask a question.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Can we have Kathy give an overview of these two?
Absolutely.
Good evening, I'd be happy to. So we had 2 additional submissions for search for the city manager role. RSI, and they are located in Chicago, as well as Corn Ferry, and they have a dual location that we would work with both in Chicago and in Washington, D.C. RSI is a singular and team recruiter, so they have not yet named or decided what that staff would look like for our recruitment for a city manager. Conversely, Corn Ferry has already named 2 dedicated recruiters, which are specialty government and corporate relations recruiters. One is located in Washington and one is located, I believe she lives, I don't know, it was in the search, it was in the packet that I provided you. She's not in state either, she's out of state. And then they work in tandem if necessary in the Chicago location. RSI, I must say that it was brought to my attention, there was a typo on page 6 of their submission. References are open for both, which means I have requested specific names and phone numbers for references, but I have also reached out to some fellow HR professionals and was given positive feedback on Corn Ferry. No one that I contacted had worked previously with RSI. The Corn Ferry location in Washington, D.C. is much like a singular boutique for government affairs. So they're very structured to work specifically in the government entity, as opposed to a broad base or a broad range of recruitment. They're very specialty oriented. They have been, Corn Ferry, very responsive with calls within an hour. If I place a call, they return it. They've been, I wouldn't say aggressive, but extremely quick to respond. And they're calling regularly for status updates. RSI has been, to be fair, a couple of conversations, but they have not maintained a consistent communication from the beginning. So I would like to reach out to a couple of references, but as the proposals came in and the conversations, from the conversations that I had, my recommendation would be Corn Ferry.
I have a question there. How long has Corn Ferry been in business?
It's a good question. I think it's in their overview.
I didn't get a chance. I had computer issues today, and I was unable to access any of my emails this morning.
1998, I believe.
I'm trying to get it now, so.
98.
98, okay, thank you.
Question, Mayor. Kathy, they both do a percentage, 25% is RSI of, proposed salary. You know, that's gonna fluctuate depending on what we ultimately,
Yes,
and 30% for total package on Corn Ferry, correct?
yes.
Okay, and I noticed, I didn't get a chance to go through, it looks like frankly, Corn Ferry's presentation was much more comprehensive, but I didn't have a chance since 1:30 this afternoon to go through that as thoroughly as RSI, which was shorter. Are they also offering services to negotiate the contract? I mean, it's something I think we gotta decide, I wouldn't be comfortable with either one negotiating when in fact their pay is based on the higher salary. Does that make sense?
They are seeking a percentage of a salary range right now. I think realistically, we would drive that salary recommendation with them to negotiate for us on our behalf. So they wouldn't decide that, we would decide that.
Right, but right now, there will be an adjustment to be made at conclusion. Once we have a signed contract, it could go up or it can go down.
Correct.
Because it will fluctuate from the, middle of the road estimate. So, we're going to lead the negotiation?
Well, I
See?
think we direct Corn Ferry to, we give them
And to be
the
clear, they
information.
both do that.
Yes,
They both do that. It's not just Corn Ferry.
they do. But we wouldn't do the negotiation. They would do it on our behalf, but I think we would provide that information to either of them to say, here's our magic number based on what you're telling us this person brings and their experience and their, right? We're gonna, well, you'd decide what that number should be, and then we give that to whatever company that we choose to utilize, and they would go forward with that number. They wouldn't create that number. They might want to recommend or give us their thoughts based on the work that they've done recently with other city managers, but that's certainly not their decision, that's your decision.
And as far as Corn Ferry being the larger corporate headquarters is Washington DC, and they apparently have a Chicago, I'm sure they have other satellite offices, is there any risk that it's gonna be higher than the estimate because of travel costs? In other words, can they do everything out of the Chicago office that we need them to do, or are we going to find out a month from now, we had to send 2 people in from Washington to do something and you gotta pay for the flights and accommodations?
No, they will do everything virtually if you would like them to. They can, we can have a contact in they're at the Willis Tower, we can have a contact there. But their feedback to me was, we don't even need to get on a plane if you don't want us to. We can appear to you and meet with you, each one of you virtually or as a group, whatever's, best for you. So they're not maintaining that they must take a trip and we must provide that.
Do we know,
accommodation.
will they be assigning personnel from Washington, virtual or otherwise, or from Chicago office?
Immediately, they assigned one person from their Washington DC office because that office is specific to government relations. That's all they do, and they're like a specialty boutique in Washington. And then they have another recruiter that they assigned us. Again, she's out of state, I wanna say Oklahoma, but don't quote me on that. And she's located off-site, so she could potentially travel, but based on the feedback that I got from most recruiters now, a lot of their work is done virtually because of the scope and the reach that we're looking for. Someone isn't gonna, go on a plane just to talk to a potential candidate in one of our states, so they'll basically, take care of the entire process virtually. In the end, I think obviously it would be appropriate for us to have some candidates come in, or a candidate, however many you decide. And they offered to come with, if that would be, desired, but nowadays, there's a lot that's done virtually without even shaking hands, so to speak.
May I ask a question? So in the other packets that we've seen for the other companies, all the extra fees that kind of add up, bringing in candidates and doing just other things like that, is that in here? Am I missing it somewhere? Or is this 30% what we will pay?
I think that's the inclusive number.
Okay.
Any other questions? Thank you.
So Mayor, I think, again, the question is there a consensus among the council members to bring one of those two proposals forward? We would need to get that sense tonight so that it can be placed on the agenda. We have a notice requirement to meet tomorrow afternoon. So we could do a straw poll on each of them.
Well, the corn, what is it, ferry?
Corn Ferry.
While they're a bit more expensive than RSI, even before you made your presentation, having read it, Kathy, I would be comfortable with Corn Ferry.
Sherry?
Corn Ferry.
Corn Ferry? Jan?
Yeah, I'm good with that.
Pat?
Yep.
Okay.
Sounds like Corn Ferry would be the choice.
Very good. Then we will publish the agenda with a contract related to Corn Ferry. That's what will be posted tomorrow, and you'll have in your packets for Thursday at 4:30 here in the council chambers, as well as the intergovernmental agreement between the city and the Park District for the taste. And that's all I have, Mayor.
Next is public comments. Is there anyone present that would like to speak on a public comment this evening? We do have a request for closed session. Is there a motion to go into closed session to discuss personnel, collective bargaining, land acquisition, or conveyance pending or threatened litigation, after which the meeting will be adjourned?
So moved.
Second.
Been motioned and seconded. Councilman Cardenas? Councilman Clement?
Aye.
Councilman Hug?
Before I vote, I have an earth-shattering announcement, folks. I went to the grocery store yesterday morning, and I got a carton of 18 eggs, not 12, 18 for $1.49. Something's happening out there, something good. Aye.
Councilwoman Ibarra?
Aye.
Councilman Mudrin?
Aye.
Councilwoman Quillman?
Aye.
Councilwoman Reardon?
Aye.
Mayor Darcy?
Aye.
Motion carried.